welcome to another edition of Crosstalk. My name is Kevin Tocci. I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. Now, as you have come to expect from this particular program, we try to inform you about some of the things that are going on in the two communities that we are proud to serve, Whitman and Hanson, and it could be a variety of topics that we sit down and talk about. It could be budgets, it could be schools, it could be about upcoming events, it could be you name it. But we like to use this program as a vehicle. We have a fun conversation today. We get to meet someone who is a member of the Hanson Parent-Teacher Organization. We have Melissa Valachovic.
Yes.
Did I say that? Valachovic.
Yep.
I almost said it another way earlier, and a good thing I checked with her first. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
For folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
And if you will, share details as to how you get involved with the Hanson PTO.
Sure. So I am a resident of Hanson. I grew up in Hanson, actually, and my husband and I moved our family back to town about just under 4 years ago. I am a mom of two boys, one who is a first grader at the Indian Head Elementary School and a preschooler who attends the integrated program up at the high school. When my oldest entered preschool, it was housed at McQuan at the time, and that's how I got involved in the PTO. I currently serve as one of the co-treasurers on the board, and I love just being a part of helping, supporting our school community in any way that I can. So,
tell us about the PTO. What's the mission statement? I mean, what's from your inception in, what have you learned about what it is that the PTO does?
So the PTO is, we look to support the schools as best we can, and mostly through finances. And the way we are able to gain the finances to help support the school is through events and fundraising. So in the past, we have done a fun run where the kids are either raising pledges per lap, or people can donate, just a definite amount of money, and they run so many laps around a little tiny loop, and parents can come out and cheer for them and whatnot. We have done a Halloween sort of dance. We do a sweetheart dance in February. We've sold cookies and wrapping paper and all of that stuff. So, but mostly our focus is to raise money to help support the schools in ways that, the budget might not be able to.
What goes into planning these events, these fun events?
So typically we meet on a monthly basis. I actually am leaving here to go to our January meeting.
Please thank the members.
So we share ideas. Sometimes people who are within the school community can volunteer ideas. We do have a Google form on our website, and they can share sort of what their ideas and how the steps that they would like to take to make this go from an idea to an actual event. People can come to the meetings and share ideas, and then typically what happens, we vote on whether or not that's an idea we want to move forward with. Committees are formed, people work together, and that is how the event is created.
How big is the Hanson PTO? I mean, how many members? I know there's probably an ebb and a flow where maybe 1 month you may have one number, then another you might have less.
So I would say for a typical PTO meeting, we probably have about 20 to 25 members who attend.
That's pretty good.
And we do have a Facebook page, and I believe we are somewhere over 400 members of our Hanson PTO page. So people are getting information whether they're able to attend the meetings or not. And we do post our minutes on our Facebook page, and we do post them on our website as well.
Which, of course, is, if you will, Paul kind of put that up. The Hanson PTO does have a website. Actually, that's where I got some of my questions. I actually perused the website and checked it out. I believe it's Hanson. There it is, right there on the screen. You can't miss it.
Great.
Hanson, www.hansonpto.org, not .com, .org. Easiest way. How do you decide? You decide an event. You meet. You have a subcommittee. Does the direction of where the funding goes, is that prior to? I mean, we're chicken and egg here. I mean.
So what usually happens in terms of like requests for using funds from the PTO bank account is teachers have a form that they can fill out, and that gets submitted to our meetings, and the money is voted on at meetings. So no money can be spent by our organization unless members have voted on it. So that's how
So
we
if
do
little
that.
Johnny's class wants to have a pizza party one Friday, said teacher could put in an application, and then it's voted on.
Yes.
And then pizza is had by all.
So I can, an example exactly like that. Let's say the third grade wants to go on a field trip, and they're looking for either full funding or partial funding. The third grade teachers would come together and they would write out the form and sort of say what they want to do, how much it costs, why they are doing it. That form gets submitted to our committee, and then typically teachers actually come to the PTO meeting to explain it a little bit more broadly instead of just what's on paper, and then we vote on it that night, and usually everything that we can fund gets passed. So
I'm going to digress just a little bit here, because
Sure.
we talked about the PTO. Let's say I'm a Hanson parent. I don't know if I want to be a part of the PTO, but I want to help out in a way. Can someone just volunteer and not just be a member?
yes, so we do, one of the events that we do that I forgot to mention is a book fair. We do a book fair in November, and we do one, I believe at the end of May. And any parent can volunteer. The only requirement is that you are quarried by the school. No parent is allowed to volunteer in the school
Today's day and age, yep.
Yes, unless there's a background check. So that's the only requirement. But anybody who wants to do that can go up to the school office and meet with Mrs. Andrews, who is our school secretary. And as long as they have their license on them, they can fill out the form, and she will take care of that. And it's usually about a week or two turnaround that they will get the information on whether or not the background check came back clean. So.
Okay. Well, again, the idea of kind of giving folks kind of a little insight instead of just talking, because the main reason why Melissa and I are here is to talk about a fun event that is
We hope
kind of
so.
a cold event too, but it's for a good cause. Talk to me about this event coming up January 27th.
Yep.
A special gathering at the Cranberry Cove at Camp Kiwanee.
Yep.
A Polar Plunge. Talk to me about the genesis of that.
Sure. So the idea or the thinking behind having a Polar Plunge was to find an event or create an event that was not only open to the families of the school community, but the community at large. So thinking of a way to really just bring community together. And truthfully, my husband was the inspiration for this. He has always wanted to do a Polar Plunge. And so one night, we were just sort of talking after our boys had gone to bed, and I was like, we have Cranberry Cove. Nobody uses that in the winter. Do you think it's possible to have a Polar Plunge there? And he's like, I don't know, you'd have to do the research. So I brought it up with my fellow board members. I shared the idea with them, and I think they thought I was nuts. But, they said, sure, find out the information and go ahead. So over the summer, all of the departments in town that would be included in making this, a safe and successful event were met with. So I sent my boys off to camp, and every morning that I had available that week, I met with the Hanson Fire Department, the Police Department, the Rec Commission, the Superintendent's office, and the Highway Department. And again, the initial reaction was sort of a funny face of, is this lady for real? But as the conversation continued.
Gained momentum.
Yes. I have to say, at the end of the conversation with each of those departments, it was, yeah, this is something we could really do. This is a distinct possibility. So I went back and on our Facebook page wrote out sort of all the steps that it had taken to get to that point, to get the information to actually go forward with the Polar Plunge. And now it was time to make sure that members wanted an event like this, that they would be supportive and invested in something like this. There was pretty good feedback on the Facebook page, so our initial meeting in September was brought up again. We voted on it, and a committee was formed, and we've just moved forward from there. So I have to say, like, our committee has been very dedicated and hardworking. We've reached out to lots of people in the community, and in 2 weeks we will have about 40 plungers running into going into the waters, the cold water at Cranberry Cove.
Running, I think, is in theory.
Yes, there are some logistics to whether or not they can run in, or it will be more of a walk onto ice and go into. Yes, I can explain more about that later. But yeah, it's been pretty well received, and it's the first time that an event like this will be held here in town, so it's a little historic in that sense, and we're excited to be sort of leading the charges with it and hope that it is successful. So,
how did you come to a date at the end of January? Because I know that traditionally
yes.
It's usually somewhere around the New Year. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the day, but
sure.
Was that pondered?
Like you said, traditionally it's a little bit closer to the New Year when there's less likelihood that there'll be snow and ice and all of that stuff. So truthfully, this weekend was picked because we are a big football family. My husband actually works down at Gillette during the football games, and that was the only week we could guarantee that there would be no football on TV. And we figured we might get a few more people
prior to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Smart. Yeah.
So,
but it's the Pro Bowl. Nobody watches that.
That's what we figured. Nobody watches the Pro Bowl, especially here in New England. So that's how we came up with the 27th. We do have, hopefully this won't happen, but just in case the weather doesn't cooperate for us, we do have sort of our rain snow date set for Super Bowl Sunday, but it's, again, early enough in the morning that people can jump in and then go home, warm up, and be ready for the game that night.
Yeah, the game's not on until like 6 o'clock at night, and you get commercials.
Exactly.
And I was going to ask if there's a contingency plan, because again, usually the end of January is when we start seeing whether it's snow, and the other thing you have to, with water, depending on the freezing, it's one of those things you might have to say, it's ice and it's not water.
So when I had met initially with the fire department, I spoke with Deputy Chief O'Brien, and he and I had a lengthy conversation, and we actually went over together to the highway department, and one of the first things I brought up with them is, this is fresh water. This isn't like the L Street brownies running into the ocean. How could we break the ice if necessary? And they said, we have the tools for that. I guess they do have to run, drills and stuff over the winter. God forbid somebody falls through the ice. So they have ways of getting into the ice. So sort of all those boxes were checked when we went through sort of what would be necessary if this weather event happened or this weather event happened. Even if it had snowed prior, the highway department was like, nope, we can get right on that beach and we can plow that snow out of the way so people are able to be on the beach and go into the water. So we tried to make sure that we thought of sort of every worst case scenario.
It's funny you mentioned as far as the fire department, because our very own Carol Brewster, who is our Hanson producer, along with Jerry Thompson, Chief Jerry Thompson, actually produced a ice safety video.
Oh, okay.
It's a public service announcement that we actually air here on Whitman Hanson Community Access, showing the dangers, and of course the Hanson Fire Department aptly going out there. And I think we even used drone footage to capture them. And I don't know if it was our footage. If we get the person with the drone, or it might have been somebody very capable in the Hanson Fire Department. It's a lot of video work.
Actually, speaking of that safety, just to put it out there, one of the things that we talked about was concerns of people who are not in the plunge being on the beach and wandering and whatnot, since it is a family-friendly event. So nobody besides volunteers or plungers will be allowed on the inside of Cranberry Cove. We are going to be, the highway department is kind enough to put barricades up on part of the parking lot there down at the cove, so that spectators can be on the other side of the fence safely watching, and that's how we're going to run it. So that way there is no chance of anybody sort of getting out on the ice that really shouldn't be out there and being unsafe.
Okay.
So.
Now you said that a lot of the department heads, the folks that you've had conversations with to kind of get their approval, with their thoughts on the event. And I believe you also said that folks on social media have been very receptive as well.
Yeah, I have to say it's been great. One of the, when I was first, again, collecting information to see if it was doable, one of the people I reached out to was our select person, Laura Kemet, because I know she's run quite a few events. Yep. And, you know, I just asked her, one, do you think I'm crazy? And two, what do you think some of the points that I should really be considering when moving forward? And she was a great resource. She gave me a lot of great ideas and people to reach out to. And she, you know, again, at the beginning of the conversation, I think she thought I was a little nuts, but she warmed up to it. And at that point, she told me that she might even put a toe in the water for this event. But I have to say, since then, she has committed, she is registered, and she is our highest pledge gainer at this point.
Wow, she's got the highest amount of donors.
Yep. She has gone above and beyond.
Wow.
We're very grateful for that.
Oh, and I think our cameras will be there too.
Yes.
This will be fantastic.
We are fortunate enough that actually every select person in town has committed to doing the plunge.
No kidding.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was my next question. You have anticipated my next question. That is, what do you have for well-known people who are going to get involved with this?
Yeah, we're really...
Hanson residents specifically.
Yeah, sure. So we're really fortunate. Laura Kemet will be jumping. Mr. Bloss. I don't think I can call him Wes Bloss because he was my 6th grade teacher. He will always and forever be Mr. Bloss. Jim Hickey is jumping. Matt Dyer and our chairperson, Kenny Mitchell. Okay. And then we also have Superintendent of Schools, Jeff Simonak, jumping, as well as Assistant Superintendent of Schools, George Farrow. Oh. Bob Hayes has been a huge supporter of this. He is taking the plunge for our students.
Oh, yep. We definitely will have to have multiple cameras there.
As well as 2 other school committee members, Mike Jones and Chris Howard. And I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody, so I apologize, but...
She's under pressure right now, so if she forgets your name, she didn't do it intentionally.
Right.
It's the bright lights in here.
We have a couple members of the Finance Committee jumping, Kevin Sullivan, who is the chairperson of that committee, and Patrick Powers, who is a member of that committee. And then in terms of adults in our schools, Indian Head specifically, we have our assistant principal, Jennifer Costa, and quite a few members of the staff, Mr. Gross, Mrs. Quinlan, Mrs. Tokars, and I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly. I'm trying to think. Another Mrs. Costa, who's part of the staff, Mrs. Schreiber, Mrs. Manter, I think is her name. So we've had I went to one of the staff meetings for the Indian Head School, and I think they were really touched by the fact that all of our select people are doing this for the students and the staff. And it really, I think, again, it's doing what we intended it to do, to bring the community together and in a way that supports our kids. And one other person, Chris Jones, Dr. Chris Jones over at the high school, he is plunging for future Panther Nation. So we're just excited to have all these people on board. Sergeant Pete Daly is also jumping from the Hanson Police Department. So
are you going to try to work your way up to Chief? Maybe Chief Mix? Chief Mix, are you watching?
So I have tried.
Terry Thompson?
I've reached out to all of Chief Thompson and Chief Mix, and they've been very supportive of the event. I cannot speak to them registering, but they've been nothing but supportive. So that's, in and of itself, a wonderful thing for our organization.
I think it's fantastic. I think you've really worked really hard in getting this to where it's at. Give us as far as what are the chain of events? So it's a matter of, do you have like a certain time? Is there a countdown? Does it matter going into the water, coming out, and it's done? Do you have other things that are going to happen, or is it a matter? It's just the act of just going in the water and putting a punctuation at the end of the sentence on this? Yeah.
So where it's the first one and there is so many unknowns, we can't predict exactly what the weather will be that day. It's going to be sort of an in and out type of event, but we will have a portion of the parking lot barricaded off so people can safely come and watch their loved ones or their teachers plunge, or just come out and sort of check it out. So I think where it's the first one, it's on a smaller scale. We have 40 participants. We're thinking maybe two heats, we'll call it. Yes, so the first heat goes in, and then the second one, and then it will be sort of, you did a great job. Here's your towel for participating. Let us help you get warm, and then sort of off into the rest of their day.
Now, how do you figure out who's in what heat?
So what we're thinking right now, I still have to meet with our committee one more time, because again, all these decisions are not mine alone to make.
Oh, as a group.
Yes, absolutely. And again, so grateful. The women we have on the committee are amazing. But I think we'd like to sort of get all the select people in one group and the school people in another group, and parents and stuff like that. And again, the two heats would be if there is no ice on the pond. If there is ice, we will actually have 4 heats. Because what happens is, according to Deputy Chief O'Brien, they would have to go further out on the ice and actually cut a triangle into the ice, and then people would walk onto the ice and sort of lower their bodies into the ice, into the water. So it's a little bit more complicated if ice is there. We're hoping right now, the report is that Town Hall Pond is just starting to freeze over in the middle, so we're hoping the same for McQuon, and if weather patterns stay where they are, then we will be able to have the 2 heats where it'll be sort of a traditional people running in. But again, we won't know too much more until just before the event, and information will go out to the registered participants then, so they know what to expect.
And I was actually going to ask you, was there a consideration? I know Cranberry Cove is fantastic, but did you consider any other bodies of water in the town to go to, like the one over by the town hall?
Yeah, no. To me, just having a beach
Wampatuck
there.
Pond or something like that?
Yeah, is that Town Hall Pond? I know McQuon Pond is Cranberry Cove. Wampatuck could be Town Hall. I just really thought with the beach, and then there was talk of, would the lodge be involved in this as well, having something at the lodge or whatnot. So Cranberry Cove just seemed like the most logical place to have it at this point in time.
So I would ask you, is there an amount that you're hoping to, have you set a goal as a committee, as a group? Is there a goal? Did you set an amount that you hope to raise and exceed?
So what we did was we came up with a number for people participating, sort of what they would pay for their registration, and $30 is the fee that we came up with. Okay. And that would cover, we have minimal costs, but that would cover the towels and any rental fees that we might incur. And then the hope was to have each participant raise at least $35. We wanted it to be attainable, and also with the hopes that people would surpass that. And I have to say, most of the people have done just that, have surpassed that fundraising goal. Currently, it looks like we're going to be around $3,000 with all of our pledges and whatnot in terms of proceeds. So, and that will go right into our PTO bank account, and then as it says on our pledge page, it will go towards enrichment programs. So whether that's, something that comes into the schools, or if that's field trips out of the schools, helping to support technology needs within the schools, any sort of just teacher requests. For example, we just provided some adaptive seating for our 2nd and 4th grade classrooms. And then our new principal, Jill Cotreau, is hoping to get to raise enough money to get a school sound system, so that when she has assemblies and stuff for the students, everybody's able to hear what's happening and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
I think it's remarkable. A lot of communities, I think there are communities that wish that they had an active parent-teacher organization that mobilizes and comes up with, and I'm not saying that it's not something, but there are communities, you don't hear a lot from the PTOs.
Right.
And knowing in tough fiscal times, every little bit helps, especially if you can provide those enrichment programs and little items that, as it is, it's being more and more costly. You go to town meeting every spring and it's get to see what the town is up against for the fiscal year that starts on July 1st. It's not easy.
Absolutely. I think, any ways that you can be innovative and include everybody in supporting various causes and the PTO and really our youngest citizens is fantastic. And the people have been very interested. I think people are very curious about this event since it's never been done before. So we're hoping that there's a good turnout of people being involved in different ways, plunging, watching. Hopefully, Carol will be coming and taping for us so people who can't make it can watch it from the comfort of their home. And, hopefully everything goes well and we'll see what that means for the future.
Well, exactly. I was going to say is that could be kind of a little bit of a preview for folks who might want to be part of the second annual.
Exactly.
Or maybe get involved with the PTO.
Right.
And come up with ideas that the group can sit and mull and discuss. And speaking of which, I know we're sitting here and we're talking solely about the Polar Plunge, but is it too early to tip your hand? And, what are in the works right now for things beyond the plunge? You got things that you guys are discussing right now?
Yeah, so we're hoping in May to have a family day where there's various aspects to that, face painting and, like a little petting zoo, different things like that. So I have to say I'm not part of that committee, so I don't know exactly what they're planning, but I know that it's, geared towards family with children and not just families with children who are part of the PTO, families with children in the larger community. So, which is a great way to get people to know sort of what the PTO does, as well as incoming families knowing that we have an active PTO, that we are a supportive PTO, and that we are always welcoming ideas and people to come and join and just share with us sort of what we do, which is to support the schools.
Less than 3 minutes left.
Oh, great.
Really talked it up here. Anything that I have forgotten to ask you or any information you want to share with folks one last time, whether it's about the plunge or about the PTO in general?
Okay. So in terms of the plunge, I know that there's been some questions from community members about where they can support either the plunge itself or donate to a participant. So the best way to do that is to go to our pledge page, and actually I wrote it down because I didn't think I would remember. So our pledge page is 99pledges.com/fund/PTO Polar Plunge 2019, and people can either donate directly to the plunge or they can find a participant and donate to their page. There has been questions, I guess, about if people could write checks. We will accept checks up until the day of the event, and those can be written out directly to the Hanson PTO. I would say if for people who are coming to spectate, they are welcome to come. We would ask that people carpool as much as possible because
limited parking.
Yes, and expect that there will be sort of parking attendants that will ask if you're plunging or not, and we will sort of send people who are not plunging a little bit further up near the lodge. That way plungers can, get right out,
front row,
dry off and get in their car and go home and be dry. So, and then in terms of the PTO, anybody who wants to be actively involved are always welcome to our meetings. They usually happen the second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. in the Indian Head Library. And, the more the merrier. So.
And I would say visit the website as we have up on the screen right now. And I want to thank you.
Thank you so much.
You were so nervous.
I was.
You did a fantastic job.
I still am.
I think what we could do is, though, we got to talk about having a PTO show.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
Maybe you could be the host.
Well.
All right. Bring it to the group. I know you're going to meet with them after this.
I will mention it to them tonight.
But I thank you very much. And I thank the members of the PTO and the folks from Whitman and Hanson for tuning in to Whitman Hanson Community Access. Any questions, comments, visit our website, whca.tv. It's easy to do if you want to get involved here or find out some of the things that are going on with us. Well, until next time, have a great day.